The call came at exactly 6:42 p.m. I remember the time because I was standing in my kitchen, staring at the oven clock, waiting for the lasagna timer to beep. Everything felt normal, comfortable, safe. The kind of quiet evening you don't realize is your last one before everything changes. Then my phone rang.
Dad.
I smiled as I picked it up. Hey, Dad. Emily. His voice stopped me cold. It wasn't just tired. It wasn't just stressed. It was broken. Every instinct in my body went on alert. Dad? What's wrong? There was a long pause. I could hear his breathing. Uneven. Heavy. Like each breath cost him something. Then he said it. I lost everything. The world didn't shatter in that moment. It didn't explode or crash. It just quietly tilted. Lost what? I asked slowly. Another pause. The company, the house, the accounts, all of it. I leaned against the counter, gripping the edge so hard my fingers hurt. No, that's not possible. I thought I could fix it, he whispered. I thought I had time. That was the moment I realized something worse than the words themselves. He had been carrying this alone. For who knows how long. Where are you? I asked. At the house for now. I'm coming. The fall of a man I thought was unbreakable. 2 hours later, I was standing in the doorway of the house I grew up in. Except it didn't feel like home anymore. It felt like a place already abandoned. Boxes lined the walls. Drawers half open. Documents scattered across the dining table like evidence of a life falling apart. And in the middle of it all sat my father, Richard Lawson, the man who built a steel company from scratch, who worked 16-hour days without complaining, who taught me that failure wasn't an option, was now sitting hunched forward, looking like he had aged 20 years overnight. Dad, I whispered. He looked up, tried to smile.
Failed.
I didn't want you to see this. I walked over and sat beside him. I'm glad I did. He let out a slow breath. Bad investments to partner I trusted, loans I couldn't cover. Each word sounded heavier than the last. I kept thinking I could turn it around. He shook his head. But I ran out of time. Silence filled the room. Then, after a moment, he said something I'll never forget. Emily, I need to ask you something. I turned toward him. Anything. His eyes lowered. Can I stay with you for a little while? There it was. The question no parent ever wants to ask. And without thinking, without hesitation, I answered. Of course. The man I married. That night I told my husband, Daniel Brooks. If you looked at Daniel from the outside, you'd think I had married the perfect man. Successful corporate consultant. Sharp mind. Confident. Always composed. The kind of man who walked into a room and naturally took control of it. The kind of man people trusted. Or thought they did. He sat across from me at the dining table, listening quietly as I explained everything. He didn't interrupt. Didn't react. Just watched me. When I finished, the room felt too quiet. Then he asked, How long? I blinked. What? How long is your father planning to stay? Something inside me shifted. I don't know, I said slowly. Until he figures things out. Daniel leaned back in his chair, exhaling slowly. That's not ideal. My chest tightened. He just lost everything, Daniel. And that's unfortunate, he replied calmly, but it's not our responsibility. The words landed harder than I expected. He's my father. And he's bankrupt. Silence. Then he said it.
Cold. Clear.
Final. You need to let him handle his own mess. The day everything broke. The next morning, my father arrived. 2 suitcases. That was it. 40 years of work, reduced to 2 pieces of luggage. He stood at the door like he wasn't sure he was allowed inside. I won't stay long, he said quietly. I just need a little time. I hugged him tightly. You're staying as long as you need. But behind me, Daniel was watching, and his silence said everything. Dinner that changed everything. That night, we sat down for dinner. 3 people, 1 table, and tension so thick it felt like you could cut it. My father barely touched his food. Daniel ate like nothing was wrong. Then suddenly, he set his fork down. I've been thinking, he said. My stomach dropped. This wasn't going to be good. This situation isn't sustainable. I looked at him. Daniel. No, he said, cutting me off. This needs to be addressed. Then he turned toward my father, looked him directly in the eyes, and said, You need to take the burden off your daughter. The room went silent, completely silent. My father froze.
I felt something inside me snap.
Get out. Daniel blinked. What? You heard me. I stood up.
You don't get to speak to him like that.
Not in this house. Daniel slowly stood as well. This is my house too. No, I said, my voice shaking but firm. This is my home. I took a step closer. And you just made it clear you don't belong in it. The divorce papers. The next morning, Daniel handed me an envelope. I already knew what it was before I opened it. Divorce papers.
Just like that.
No conversation. No attempt to fix anything. No emotion. I think this is best, he said. Like we were ending a contract, not a marriage. I signed them, right there, without hesitation, without tears, because something inside me had already closed. The lowest moment. Days passed. Quiet. Heavy. My father barely spoke. I could see it in his eyes.
Guilt.
Deep, crushing guilt. One night, I found him sitting in the living room in complete darkness. You should have never taken me in, he said softly. My heart broke. Don't say that. I cost you your marriage. I knelt in front of him, looked him straight in the eyes.
No.
I shook my head. I didn't lose anything. I paused. I finally saw the truth. The unexpected knock. A week later, everything changed. A black SUV pulled up outside the house. Two men stepped out, dressed in suits. Serious. Professional. They walked to the door and knocked. My father answered. Yes. Mr. Richard Lawson? That's me. The man extended his hand. I'm from Carter and Wells Financial Group. My father frowned. I think you have the wrong address. The man smiled slightly.
No, sir.
We don't. He opened a folder. Your former business partner has been under federal investigation. The air shifted instantly. What? My father whispered. For financial fraud. Silence. Then, all assets tied to the case have been recovered. My heart started racing. What does that mean? I asked. The man looked at my father. It means your company has been reinstated. Everything stopped. My father stared at him. You're saying I'm not bankrupt? That is correct. Karma comes fast. 2 days later, Daniel called.
Of course he did.
I heard about your father, he said. I stayed silent. I think we should talk. Still nothing. Then, I may have made a mistake. I laughed.
For real this time.
You didn't make a mistake, I said calmly. You showed me exactly who you are. Emily, we can fix this. No. I cut him off. You can't fix something that was never real. The life after. Months later, everything looked different. My father rebuilt his company. Stronger than before. Smarter. More careful about who he trusted.
And me?
I rebuilt too. But not from loss. From clarity. Because sometimes, you don't lose people when life falls apart. You finally see them clearly. Final line. When my dad lost everything, my husband called him a burden. But minutes later, life proved something neither of us expected. The real burden was never my father. It was the man I married.